Hey everybody, it's Susie. Welcome to my craft room. Okay, this has been a long-awaited video. I've been promising that I would do this for a while, and now I am going to do it. What I'm going to do is we're going to talk about stamp pads and how to make your own. Just kind of looking at different options that we have, because stamp pads are very, very, very expensive. So I'm going to show you how you can kind of make your own stamp pad. Well, not kind of, or you can make your own stamp pads. We have several different options, and I just kind of want to go over a few things with you. Okay, today we're going to be mixing our color with water. Some people will use glycerin, and the difference between using water and glycerin is glycerin will make your color stay wet longer. That's not ideal for when you just want to stamp and move on. If you're going to be embossing, then you're going to want your color to stay wet longer so that you can get your embossing powders on and such. So the only time that I would ever use glycerin, and I could not find my glycerin to show y'all, just this little bottle of glycerin that I have. You don't need to run out and buy glycerin. Trust me, you don't, unless you are going to want to make some embossing pads. But other than that, really, water is going to work just fine. So first of all, I want to talk about what can you make your stamp pads in. This is an old makeup eyeshadow color palette, and I thought I cheated beforehand and got this where I could lift it out, and maybe that didn't work out so well. So let's see if I can do this without cutting myself. Well, I did cheat y'all and had it ready so that I wouldn't have to do this on camera, but I guess that didn't work out so well. Okay, so you can take, like the color palette out, and then you have a nice place to make a stamp pad. Okay, so what I would do, of course, I would clean that all up, first, before I, put my stamp pad in there. And the nice thing about, a lot of these, like the blushes and, things like that, is they do have a window on it so you can see what color. But, of course, you can always make a label, with the stamp, with the color of it on there. But if you use this, then you're going to want to use something thin. This is a shoe insert, and the reason, it's a foam, but shoe inserts are designed to absorb moisture, whereas craft foam, trying to use craft foam, does not absorb moisture. It repels it. It'll just sit on top. So we kind of want our moisture to go in here. So what I would do is I would take this, and you can buy the cheapest ones you can find, and I'm going to set this on here, and I'm going to kind of trace this out. And then I'm going to cut it. And it doesn't have to be perfect or anything. I mean, it's a stamp pad. Okay, let's see if this fits. It does. Okay, I could have made that a little bit bigger, but it's okay. Now, I can try to glue this in with some hot glue or with some Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1 or whatever. The problem with cosmetic cases, maybe you have already just noticed, is you can't necessarily stamp them like this. Sometimes these hinges won't open up all the way. And sometimes if you break them off, it's going to let air get into it. So, that's not always ideal for stamping, because for one thing, you can't get a great hold on it. But I mean, it works. But if you're just going to take a stamp, and ink it up and then, stamp your piece, it works great. So this is an option. But like I said, a cheap, you can get, a set of them at the Dollar Tree, seriously, and they're fine. You just don't want it to be really, really tall, but you want it to almost be above this edge. I mean, at least even with it, so that, you know, when you do try to ink something, that it works. So that is an option. Old cosmetic cases make great little stamp pads. Okay, another option is to do something like this. And what this is a container from Dollar Tree. Now, I don't recommend using this particular container because, I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, but you have to cut all this excess off. And if you're not careful, this plastic breaks very, very easily. So you really have to cut it like way towards the bottom and then gently, you know, work your way up to here. And then after I did that, I covered it in plastic, and then it is covered completely with shipping tape because I didn't want any air to get in there. Okay, so this right here is a mat, a drying mat that I got at Dollar Tree, and I cut it up and made a whole bunch of these because this was the original way that I learned how to do it. So, and I learned this particular method from Amy over at Aljon. So, all I did was I cut my piece out to fit in the lid. I set this down, you know, this bottom part down on here on one of these mats and cut around it. And that's how I got this shape to go on my lid. And you want to check it, you know, to make sure that your lid is going to close. It's got to be small enough where it's not interfering. If you're going to use a bigger container like this, which, like I said, I don't recommend because that's a huge stamp pad, you know, I would recommend maybe like a little sandwich container instead of one of these, because this was about this big when I started. And a sandwich container, you know, is pretty narrow, but you're going to put this in the lid. And I glued mine down with, I think, some Fabri-Tac. I did. And it's holding okay. I may have to go back in there and every now and again, you know, glue it down again. It would have probably been better if I had taken some sandpaper and buffed that down just a little bit so it would stick a little bit better, you know, because nothing likes to stick to these containers. Hot glue will work. Again, it may be a temporary fix. So, but anyway, that is a great stamp pad. You can get a lot of inking with that, you know, on your stamps. If you have like some really large, let's say Christmas stamps or whatever that you want to ink up, this makes a great size ink pad. But for the most part, we don't use ink pads that are that big. But this is an option and it works well. Okay, another option that we have is to use these. And these are absolutely what I recommend. And I've got one that's open already, and I'm going to show you that too. But I get these 3 for $1 at the Dollar Tree whenever they have them. And when they have them, I buy all that they have. I might leave one if I'm being nice that day. And I try to leave one always, unless there is only one. But I try to pick up as many of these as I can because I use them for so many different things. They're a great size for lots and lots of stuff. But like I said, they're 3 for $1 at our Dollar Tree. Now, if you're across the pond, you know, maybe your dollar shops or whatever will have these. But they are a great size. So I'm going to show you opened up. Well, this one is a little bit different. This one's got... Now they're about the same. This one is a little bit deeper, as you can see. So I will go ahead and open it. Well, you know what? I can show you on this one. This is like the size, and so you would, you know, trace around the bottom of that onto your drying pad, and you'll place it in the lid. Now, as you can see, you have a rubber seal around here, which is great because it keeps the air out. But you're going to want your stamp pad to come above this. So you're probably going to have to go 2 layers deep with your with this, because this is kind of thin. And so if we doubled it up and did 2 layers, then it would stick up, because we want it to be higher than this so that we can stamp on our stamps with it, unless you're just going to, you know, use your stamps on there. But you still want it to be taller than the lid, but it has to fit in this section. So it may even take, you know, 3 to really get it high enough. I think you'd have to put that in 3s, which is fine because it'll, you know, you can glue it right together. And these are $1 for, you know, a cutting mat. So it's not like you're spending a whole lot of money. So that is another option, and I think this is the best option because of the size of it. It's about the size of our regular stamp pads. It has the rubber seal around it to keep the air from getting in, quite as much. And it has the little locking things on the sides. So I like that the best. Okay, so then you have a container like this, which also works. And it has the rubber seal in there as well that would keep the air from getting in. Now, I have not seen these in a really long time. You can pick them up. If you find these little bottles anywhere, I happened to get these at the Dollar Tree. They were 6 or 8 for $1, something like that. And they come in 2 different sizes. This is the smaller size, and then there's one just a little bit larger. And what you can do with these is you can use like a regular, kitchen sponge and cut it and stick it down in here, and then it'll work like a dauber. And you could daub, your stamps with it. So this works good. And all you would do for this is you would take like an old makeup sponge or whatever, and these I actually put out in my kitchen. I use them for baking, believe it or not. Actually for flour making. So they look a little bit funky, but I couldn't find any of my new ones. See if I can get 2 out of that, kinda. The top one is the one I want to be more perfect, so. Cut that out. Stick that in the bottom. And this one looks wacky, bad wacky. Maybe I should have put that one in the bottom. And again, you could use the drying mat to put in here, just, to cut in little circles and put in here. And as you can see, I'm making sure that goes down in there really good because, again, we're going to want this to stick up just a little bit so that we can dab the ink on there and these edges not get in the way. So I'm just going to do a couple of more to fill this up to show y'all what I'm talking about. I think my pen is not writing anymore. But again, makeup sponges are meant to be a little bit, where they'll, I don't know what's wrong with my talking today, absorbent. And so, they work good. So, but, like I said, don't try the craft foam because it really isn't absorbent and it won't hold your moisture in. It'll just kind of sit on top. Okay, I'll stick that in there. And I could probably, and you can get these, a big old bag of these at our dollar stores here in the United States for, $1 for a whole bunch of them. So, don't worry about how much it's going to cost you. That is still too low. So I think one more is going to get me where I want to be. And the reason we're not just putting this in our lid is, you want to have more moisture. And these are so small that you're not going to get it to hold a lot. I mean, you don't have to soak this all the way to the bottom. I mean, you really don't. And you could literally, just glue it in the lid and then dab it like that. So, I mean, there's lots of ways that you can do these. So I'm just trying to give y'all some options to think about. Yeah, that sticks up enough, I think. Maybe one more. I'm going to do this by eye. That's probably a mistake. Let's put this one under here and see what happens. Oh, that'll be perfect, because once that gets... If I need to, I can take one out. But see how... Well, see how that kind of pops up a little bit? That's a good thing. We're not going to glue those in or anything. We're just going to, leave them setting, or whatever the right word is. And then once we ink this, we can dab it on our piece. So if you just need a little bit of ink, you know, this would be a great plan for you. And you can, you know, I can fit 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these in one of these containers. So if you want to do inks like this, then you can put them in a little container and have all your little inks together like that. And it's sitting there just like that and works great. So those are some options of how you can make some little stamp pads or daubers. So I hope that helped a little bit on that front. Okay, now I do use these little makeup triangles sometimes when I'm making just a little bit of ink. If I'm just going to stamp, say, one image on a page, and I don't want to make a whole stamp pad for it, I'm going to show you how to make some inks right here on this plate, and I can dab it on my stamp, and then stamp my image. You know, because sometimes, you know, when you do that, after you've mixed your color, it's not exactly even. So this way, it kind of, you know, evens it out on here, and you just kind of go over that several times. I'm going to show you. So anyway, I do use these, and that's why they're in here. Okay, now, how to make inks. We've got several different ways that we can make inks. And you always want to have water available. Now, here in the U.S., we can buy like a 3-pack of bottles that has one that's got the little pump sprayer in it and 2 that look kind of like this, that are in a package together. Now, there's several different things we can use. The cheapest and easiest way to, if you're just going to do a little bit of ink, is just to use a cheap water-soluble marker. And did I bring some paper? I did. I tried to think of everything, but you know, sometimes your mind just goes to lunch on you. Okay, so I'm just going to take, and y'all, I literally just grabbed a marker. I didn't pick any particular colors for any particular reason. Okay, so I'm just going to take this marker, and I don't even know if these are any good anymore. I mean, I've had them for a really, really long time. This one doesn't look like it's going to do too much, but, and you can use any kind of glass, you know, to do this on. Just get you some color down. We're going to spray it a little bit. Just kind of get it wet. Well, and you can use like a toothpick, cocktail stick, whatever you want to call them, to mix that up a little bit if you want to. Or, you know, you don't have to, but, you know, kind of like that. And then I could soak this up. So if I just want, say, this color on my stamp, I'm going to ink my stamp up. I might not have enough. Doesn't look like I might have enough. Yeah, I didn't make enough. Let me try this one. Oh, yeah, this one has a lot more color in it. Okay. Now I'm going to show you what we can do with these right here, since this one's not any good anymore. But we do want to lay some color down. Okay, and we just want a little bit of water. Not much, just a little bit. And that's not even a full spray. I'm going to kind of mix that up. And I'm adding the water mostly to keep it wet. And we can try to put that on there and see how it does. And, you know, it will work. But sometimes your colors just are a little, you know, they haven't mixed real good. But you can try it and see, you know, if you like that. And if not, then, let's see, it almost did. It just almost. So I could probably have... But you see what I mean? It's a lot darker in some places. The lines are a little bit thicker. So let's try that now. Yeah, see it's not giving the greatest coverage. Now, we could, you know, keep adding some color and keep adding some water, you know, and get it to the shade that we want it. This is just a way to make a quick color and a cheap color. You know, if you have these like cheap little markers, you know, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 in a pack at the dollar store, you know, over here in the United States. And I think every dollar store has, you know, like kids, you know, washable markers or whatever. Okay, we have a very light, but it shows up pretty good. So it works. So, you know, but you're going to have to lay down a pretty good amount of color because, see, a lot of the color is going to stay right here. You know, if I wanted to use that, say, on some paper just to kind of decorate it up, you know, I could. And I could wet that and more color would come off. So, yeah, there's lots of different ways of decorating stuff up. When that dries, it'll have just a little blue tint to it. So, you know, there's lots of ways you can use that. So, that's kind of how we do it with the, with markers. Now, I told you I'd show you what you can do with this. You can take these markers and if you can dig the end out of one or the other, or just take some pliers or something and pull this out. Yeah, I didn't bring pliers. All right, but if you pull this piece out, that the color comes out, you know, if you can get it out this end, great. If you can't, you know, maybe you can pull it out this end. This one, they put the little doohickey way down in there, so I don't know that I could pry that one out like that, so I'd probably have to definitely pull that out. But if I had my pliers, I could pull this out and drop it down and say to one of my little bottles, you know, the other bottles that I was talking about that's like this that come in the set, and add, you know, just some water to it. I wouldn't want to add a whole bunch. And then after, you know, a while, I could take and turn that over, give it a shake, you know, because you're wanting to get all the color out of here. Then, once you have all the color, you got a whole bottle of color made from rehydrated markers. So, if your markers dry up, don't get rid of them. You can rehydrate them with water or even with alcohol or even vinegar. So, you know, that's a way that you can, you know, make some color with markers. If that's all you have, then use them. You know, you will get some good results. You will get some that aren't so good. So, but it's something to play with. Okay, the next thing I want to mention is food coloring. If you're going to use food coloring, and if the only thing you have is little bottles like you buy at the grocery store, you know, I've never tried it, so I'm not going to say one way or the other how it works. But I know it has very, very little pigment in it compared to the water. So I like to use, well, this one's not open. I should have picked one that was open. Oh, I'm going to be a mess, y'all. My hands will be red for days. Oh, I knew I was going to do that. Okay. Oh, my Lord. See? Look, I am so messy, y'all. This is awful. Okay. Oh, my Lord. Look at that. I will never get that off. Okay. This is a very, 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 very concentrated color. It's got lots and lots of pigment in it. So when I tell you, you only need a little bit, you truly only need a little bit. Try to get a little bit of that off, but I guess I'm not. And look how beautiful that color is right there. Now, with these, you do have to mix them up a little bit because it's got like, I don't really think they're called color crystals, but that's what I'm going to call them. But it's like little bitty lumps that are in there. But look how beautiful and red that is. And that was with just the tiniest amount of that food color. This happens to be made by Wilton, and you can get it, you know, our Walmarts here in the U.S., you know, have a baking section, and you can get some there. Or you can go to Joann's, Michael's, or anything like that. You know, and if you do, always use your coupon. Okay, I think that's mixed up pretty good. And I'm going to take, and I should daub it, but I'm not. I'm going to take my stamp and put it in here. And I would always recommend that you do it on a test page first and then do it on your other page that you want. You see how wet that is? So we probably either want to let this dry a little bit or daub it on there. Now remember, this sponge is going to soak up a whole bunch of this. You know, and this may be where you would want to use a piece of craft foam instead of this so that the craft foam doesn't soak it up and it'll sit on there long enough for you to get your stamp done. See how nice that looks? So, you know, there's lots of ways that you can do it. We can, you know, even rehydrate that a little bit more. And of course, there's more color on my stick. And I didn't pick these particular stamps for any reason. I just reached in and grabbed some, you know, just for demonstration purposes. And of course, you can see this color is much lighter. It looks more like a orangey kind of red. Oops. And it's still stamped very nicely. So this is a great option, you know, for, you know, if you just want one color, or if you want to make a stamp with it. Let's do our little dauber here with this. Okay, so what I want to do now, I'm never ever going to use this for food again, or I would not stick this in here. I have so many of these. I used to be a pastry chef. Oh, that's way too much color. Well, not necessarily, because I'm going to do that dauber. Okay. Now, I did prepare, and I brought me a little wet wipe so I could kind of clean my stamp off as I went. And I'm terrible about taking care of my stamps, though. My dog is getting into something in my room. I don't know what he's getting into. Okay. I love how rich and vibrant that the colors are in the gel coloring. And it doesn't have to be Wilton. Just any gel is a very highly concentrated. Now, if I want it that deep, I can just go with this. And I like that red, so I'm going to go with it that deep. Oh. Maybe 4 is too many. Or 6, or how many I put in there. Yeah, let's take one out, because it's soaked up. And okay. Now, as you can see, this is not red all the way down, and that is okay. So now I want to take my stamp, any old stamp, it doesn't matter. I'm going to show you how this works. So, no, let's just say we made these up, and, you know, it's sitting in our little doohickey. And then you just take, and it does need the extra piece in there. It definitely does. Okay, so. And if you're going to do this, you probably want to wear gloves, because this food coloring is very hard to get off your fingers. I will end up using bleach and everything else, and it still ain't going to come out good. Okay. Yeah, that's still a little bit too thick right there. I might have to cut one of those down some. All right, let's try to stamp that. Okay, I needed a little bit more, so let's make just a little bit more. Yeah, if you ever use your gel colorings, and you're also going to use them for baking, which I don't recommend. I recommend you have your own craft supplies from your own kitchen supplies. But, you know, if you have to, never, ever, I don't care if it's when you're cooking or when you're crafting, never, ever stick the same stick, whether it's a toothpick, whether it's one, it doesn't matter. Never stick the same one in your color again, because you will contaminate it. And that is not a good thing. Let's try to soak up a little bit more of that. Got to take one of these out, I think. A sponge, a kitchen sponge, actually, you know, works really good in these rather than this, but I just didn't happen to have any. Okay. So now we have our little dauber. Let's try this one. Look how nice that looks. I hope y'all can see that. So, you know, and you can get this as wet and as red as you want it all the way down if you want to. Now, I know y'all all know that when you store your stamp pads, you know, it doesn't matter what kind they are, whether it's these or, you know, something else, you're supposed to store them upside down so that the color stays there. okay, you know, where it's ready to go every time. So that's kind of the deal on that. Now, this is definitely a no-no because this is going to make that really brilliant red. But I don't want to waste it. Because we don't like waste, do we? You know what? Let's pick that up, too. Well, that didn't pick it up very good. It made more of a mess. Okay. All right, so that's ready to go. Now, let's say that you go to use this and it's kind of dry. Because I always, you know, I told you, I always make a test run. You know, whenever you get a stamp out, I don't care what it is. I always do a test run to make sure your ink is good and wet. And try it out. And if it looks good, go with it. Now, see, that's a little bit too wet because I just put a lot of water in there. But let's say it dries it out. Give it a quick spritz. Let it sit for a minute. And then go for it. So that's as easy as it gets right there. Wear gloves if you're going to, you know, play in it like that. Okay, now let's say that this stamp pad right here, I use it all the time. Not this one. Well, maybe I can't find the one I use all the time. Ugh. I use it all the time, so it's hiding on my desk, right? Sorry, I'm working on 2 or 3 different projects, and I have a mess. All right, it doesn't matter. Let me just grab one. All right, let's say this. And this is a new stamp pad, so it's not dry, I don't think. But anyway, let's say that I want to use this one. And it's brand new, so it should have a good color to it, but let's just see. Oh, don't drop it. That's the trick. I should have my blocks, right? Okay, so that's a good stamp. So it's fine. It's hydrated enough. But let's say it's kind of dried out. Spritz it with a little bit of water. Let it sit for a few minutes. And it'll be hydrated and ready to go. Always do your test first, though, to make sure that it's not too wet on you. But, you know, you don't want to spray it a lot because you don't want it soupy. You just want it hydrated. So now with alcohol inks, you'll have to use alcohol instead of water, which is fine, to rehydrate with. Oh, I have a mess. Like I said, any kind of glass, whether it's a plate or, you know, maybe you have an old microwave that you threw out, but you saved the glass thing out of the inside of it. You know, anything like that. You know, you can use picture frame glass, although I do recommend if you do that, that you cover the edges with some tape or something so it doesn't cut you, because those things are sharp, sharp, sharp. Okay, let's see. I want to clean this off a little bit. Okay, so I want to use it again. Okay, and when I'm going to stamp, when I know I'm going to stamp that day, I usually always take one of my wipes, you know, my recycled ones, and I go ahead and wet it and just put it beside me, and that way when I'm done with my stamp, you know, I can do that. If you're using alcohol inks, then obviously the water is not really going to clean it that good. And of course, you're supposed to clean them after you use them. I don't always do that. Okay, so now, the next thing I want to show you is some watercolor. If you have watercolor paint, you can use it. Now, this happens to be a tube of paint. But if you don't have tubes, don't run out and buy them. If you only have a watercolor palette, and I don't, yeah, oh, I see one way over there. I don't know if I can get to it. You can actually use that. And you would just take your brush, you know, any brush, and you know, wet your watercolor. You know, you wet it well, really well, so that it kind of soaks down in your watercolor. And when it gets where you can work it, then you would take it, put it out on your plate, and then you can stamp with it. Or you can make a, you know, a stamp pad with it. So now let's say we're going to use this blue to make a stamp pad. And this is going to take a lot because that's a big, big pad, okay? And now, of course, all right, now we got watercolor and we got gouache or gouache or whatever it's called. Watercolor is transparent, meaning you see through it, and gouache is not. So that is the difference in those. So we're going to try both. So I'm gonna, ooh, that's like a lot. And you know, I guess the trick to mixing any colors, you probably want to use about 1/4 of a color to about 3/4 water. And I could have done this on the pad, but then what I'm going to have is the center, or wherever I touch that, is kind of a mess. So, and as you can see, you got little bursts of color in there, and you're going to have to mix this up really, really good. Oh, and I meant to tell you, on the food coloring, the gel food coloring, another option for that to make stamp pads is to mix this with hand sanitizer. And hand sanitizer is alcohol-based, and, you know, it works great. I mean, that's how I learned actually to do it, was using hand sanitizer. But you want to mix this up really, really good where you don't see any lumps or bumps or, you know, any of that. So it takes a few minutes, you know, to get it all mixed in. And that's probably not going to be enough. I probably need to add some more water to that. Because like I said, that is a pretty big stamp pad. And you can do this, you know, in a container even, in a little jar or something, so that you can just kind of, you know, pour it on there if you want to. However you want to do it. I mean, it's you. Do it your way. Okay. Okay. That might not be enough, but we're going to give it a try. Yeah, that's not near enough. I don't think it was going to be. I probably should have used a container to mix it in. It's not too late. All right, let's do, that's it, because I usually don't mix my watercolor in a plate. But let me show y'all a cool technique. And Sharon, this one's for you if I can find my little thingies here. All right, this is just a little piece of packaging, okay? Stiff plastic works great, you know, like acetate or just whatever, but this is clear packaging. So that you don't even waste this, you can take this piece of plastic and dip it down on your paints and set it on your paper, and you come up with some really cool designs. And that way you're using up your paper, your paint. And then, you know, when you do your next color, just put it, you know, random places right on top, and it gives a really cool effect on your page. Of course, you can use that, you know, for a background, cut out for tags or tucks, or, you know, just whatever you want to use it for. It gives it texture, it gives it interest, you know, it's a nice look to it. And I do prefer to use a harder plastic than this packaging, but as you can see, this does work, and it does give some great effects on your page. Look at that, doesn't that look pretty? So then when I do, you know, another color, I can do that right on top of that, you know, just to give it some randomness. All right, so now I'm going to wipe this off. I was going to wipe it off. Get another wipey. I just washed some, so I know I've got plenty. I just don't know that I brought them in here. Okay. So let's take one of these and let's put some color in there. Remember I told you we're going to do about 1/4 color to about 3/4 of water. So, come on out of there. I don't know if, you know, and I'm not measuring. It's like, kind of, I mean, you know, like, whatever. And I'm not going to try to spray that much. I'm just going to pour some in there. All right. This may not even be enough for that big old pad, but. And then this way I can just shake, shake, shake. I don't have to stir. Well, this might want to kind of leak out a little bit. I'll do it over the paper so I get some design if it does. And of course, shaking is a whole lot more vigorous most of the time than stirring, so it doesn't take as long. But look how beautiful that color is. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay. All right, now I want to take and kind of work that in a little bit. Oh, look. There's a big old blob of my paint that didn't get mixed up. That's not okay. Oh, I'm making a mess. Today's messy day, in case y'all didn't know. There's still a blob of paint, but we're going to work that in. So now I'm just going to take a card, you know, any kind of gift card or whatever, and I really want to work that color in. I may need to add a little bit of water, especially on the darker places. And obviously I'm going to glue this pad back down. And remember now, this pad happened to be a tan or whatever, beige color, whatever. And so it will affect the way your color looks on here, but not necessarily on here. So I just want to take this stamp. Look at there. And it's still a little bit wet, you can tell that. And it's going to be gorgeous. I mean, so that's how easy it is to use watercolor paint. I mean, it's really that easy. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to make a label that says blue, because I like that. All right, so now I'm going to have to do dishes when I'm done here. See, y'all are causing me to do dishes. But it's okay, because I love you. And by the way, I want to thank all my new subscribers for coming along, and all of y'all that have been with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all, and I appreciate you more than you could possibly know. Okay, we did the marker. We did that. All right, now, let's do gouache. Let's see how it does. This is older than me, probably. No, it can't be that old. So I don't even know if it's even any good in the tube, because I didn't know how to use it. And it's very expensive. Back in the day, whenever this was bought, and it was in '96 when this was bought. It was $5. So imagine what it is today. This feels like it's going to come out of the tube, but I don't know. I actually inherited this. But this is called Blue Iridescent. Uh-oh, it doesn't look very blue. All right, we'll go about 1/4 of this. About 3/4 water. And we can try to shake it. We'll probably have to stir it too. Yeah, we're going to stir and break it up. And get another little stick. These little cocktail sticks I found at our dollar store. And they're very, very hard to find. But I like them because it has this. Plus it has like the little scoop in. So, you know, whichever. But I like them. But they're very, very hard to find. I've only found them one time, you know, in a couple of years that I looked for them. So I picked up a pretty good bunch of them. I mean, you know, like toothpicks will work just as good, or what are those little bamboo sticks, skewers, they would work, you know, just fine. Anything, you know, a plastic spoon, you know, just break it off and use a little handle part, or just turn it upside down and use a little handle part. This does appear to be mixing, so maybe it's still good. I do not see any blue in that at all. Maybe it's going to dry blue. It shows blue on the picture. I don't know. Okay, now for this one, I'm going to use one of these, well, and show you what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to take the time to glue the piece in. I think this was the one I used before. So now I want to trace around this would be a long, what did I say it was? Sorry, my mind is just weird today. It's a mat you use in the kitchen. A drying mat. Oh, that might not mark. Yeah, it's going to mark. Okay. See how that's going to be. And remember, I'm about to make this extra thick, so I don't even know if I'm going to have enough of these to do this with, but I'll just show you with one just for the fun of it. My hands are already a mess. And of course, a kitchen sponge would be perfect in these too. You can cut those up to use, so you wouldn't even have to use those. And then the kitchen sponge would be taller, and you wouldn't have to keep stacking because this I'll have to just keep gluing and gluing and gluing. So what I would do when I knew this was mixed up pretty good, I'm gonna just pour that on there, and I would think that this would be enough, since it's smaller. But I usually use a different container, to stir my paints and stuff up with. And this was not completely mixed up. I see lumps, but I use my card and try to work it in a little bit. That looks pretty good, y'all. I don't think we're going to be able to see the stamp. Maybe if I stamp on top of the blue, you'll be able to see it. I don't know what I used last. Let's try this. Oh, that is too wet. That still had ink on it. Bad me. All right, let's try to stamp right there. Yep, you can't really see that, and that red is showing through too. And the nice thing about all this is it is watercolors. I mean, it's all water soluble. So yes, it's showing up in the red, but actually that's kind of pretty because it does have an iridescent shine. I don't think y'all can see that, but it does have a little shine to it. So that is pretty cool, actually. Of course, the red, is going to kind of mess up my stamp pad. I'll change the colors, for whatever I want to do next. But that does look pretty cool. Yeah, it definitely does. So this is, of course, I could have picked a better gouache. I guess I just grabbed one out of the thing. Like I said, I've never, ever used them. Didn't even know how. I watched Poss and Patty use them for the first time the other day. And so, I'm excited about them a little bit, but I'm not going to go run out and buy them because I'm not a painter. So I will probably end up giving all this stuff to Sharon because she does lots and lots of painting. I just need the kind of the basics. All right, so then, like I said, I would glue this in the lid so that you can either do like this, or you can, stamp on there. For now, it's just going to go right down in here, and I will decide whether I want to keep that or wash it out. And it is completely washable. I'll just take some, dishwater, some Dawn and some water, and I'll wash that out, and it'll be good as new. So you can do that. The next thing, we did the watercolor, we did the gouache. All right, so now we have acrylics. Acrylics can be really fun. And this acrylic that I'm using happens to be in a tube. It doesn't need to be in a tube. I just don't think I have a bottle right handy because I don't use a lot of paint. And I should because it makes beautiful stuff, but I'm going to go end up taking some from Sharon because she makes so many different papers. Oh, this isn't even opened. See? And this is a magenta. And once again, water. And we're going to mix this up. Now again, if you're just going to, do a little bit of stamping and you just want a particular color for that particular page that you're working on, Just make up a little bit. You know, dab it with your little thingy here. Of course, make up enough because you know it's going to soak in. You know, and you could even try some craft foam for this, like I said, because, you know, it won't soak in like this does, which would probably be better. Or you can just, if you mix this up really good where your color's even, you could just put your stamp right in that, but you don't want it really thick where it goes all the way down into the recesses of your stamp, you know, and then comes out as a blob. So, you know, you're going to want to, you know, stir that up good and kind of thin it out a little bit. And, you know, most of us have some kind of acrylic paints hanging around. Yeah, see, I didn't thin it out enough. I mean, I didn't spread it out enough. So it's like, but now, oops. Let me spread it out a little bit more. Yeah, that's way too wet right now. I can let that dry a little bit and then use it, you know, where it's not so runny. Because right now it is just too runny. But it's fun. These are fun. I like to make stamp pads with acrylic. Again, it's a water-based paint, so if they dry up a little bit, all you got to do is spray them. You can take a little card, spread them around if you need to. You know what? Let's just make some. Let's just make some because I love these. You know, and like I said, even if you just want to make a temporary stamp pad, you'll cut up some of these drying mats into like some stamp size pieces, make your inks, put them on here, and then use them as a stamp pad. I mean, it's wonderful, all the options that you have where you don't have to have a whole bunch of stamp pads around. You know, you can make colors as you go. And it's really not that big of a pain because, you know, most of the time you're working kind of with the same colors, you know, in your pages or on your cards or whatever. And so, you know, it's like, okay, matchy-matchy, right? I might need a little bit more. And just kind of play with, you know, the amount of water and the amount of color, you know, regardless which paint you use or you know, whatever. And I'm just going to set that right down in there. Let it soak it up. Okay, that might need a little bit more. We'll see. I think it's going to need a little bit more. I need a stamp that I've cleaned already. Turn this paper over. Well, I need some more color on there, that's for sure. Okay, so, and again, you can mix this, you know, in a little container, a little bottle, whatever. It doesn't have to be on a plate. It can be anywhere you want to. You know, and really, you know, if you're just going to do a little tiny bit of stamping, you might not even need this big of a pad. Like I said, those little daubers work great. You know, make your own. You know, use these to ink your stamps up with. I mean, there's so many different options, you know, where you don't have to have a ton of ink pads, you know, and you can make color as you go. You know, it's great. So, lots of different options, y'all. I hope y'all will try something. I mean, anything is better than not trying, you know. Okay. Oh, yeah, I think that's going to be plenty. It feels more soft, soggy. All right, let's try it now. It's kind of a light pink, isn't it? But can y'all see that? I hope y'all can see that. I mean, it came out just great. So I love acrylics. I do. I love, you know, I think they make great, great, great things for stamping. And like I said, you know, if you're doing like your acrylic pages or whatever, and you know, you can even use your, you know, if you cut off a little piece and you're using it, let's say we just want, you know, a little bit of color. and, you know, because we're only going to do 1 or 2 pages or 1 or 2 designs in that particular color. You know, just cut you a little tiny piece, you know, put you some color on there. Of course, mix it with a little bit of water first. And I don't think I cleaned this one first, and that was the one that was yucky. And just dab it on there with the little piece that you put color on. And look at there. See how well that turns out? So, by far, acrylics are my favorite, but they may not be yours. So, you know, do whatever suits you and do what you have in your home. And like I said, these markers work great for making inks. And you can, you know, pour them on a stamp pad or spray them on a stamp pad. You can use them in a spray bottle to, you know, make background sprays for your pages, which really looks pretty. But all you got to do is pull that out and let it soak. Now, I did want to show you the hand sanitizer little deal. Uh-oh. Maybe I will. I've got tons of it in here, so if I can just find one. I'm working on too many projects at one time. Okay, maybe I won't show you the hand sanitizer deal. But anyway, instead of using water or glycerin, you can use the hand sanitizer to mix up your colors in, particularly, you know, if you're using the gel food coloring. I don't know that it makes, you know, a huge big difference. I've done it with everything. But once again, just, you know, for the sake of sharing, I mean, I hope all of you enjoy it, but I know that Sharon and I were talking about this very technique yesterday, and so I do want to show it to her. Just need a little piece of packaging. Here we go. All right, I just want to, where's the acrylic? Right here. All right, well, you know what? I'm going to use a regular acrylic out of the bottle if I have a, yeah, I do. All right, you know what? All right, this is a, and you can use metallics, by the way. If you want metallic stamp pads, by all means, make them. And like I said before, if you want a stamp pad for embossing, you're going to have to use glycerin instead of water to mix it with, so that it'll stay wet long enough for you to get your embossing powders on. Water is going to dry up too fast, and alcohol certainly will, because alcohol is very drying. All right, so again, let's say that you want to, you know, make a metallic stamp pad. Take your paint, mix it with your water, put it on, you know, whatever you're going to use as a stamp pad. Before I do that, let me show you this. So anyway, let's say you use this to, you know, ink your stamps with. And then you get to another page that just needs some kind of interest or something. Just take it and dab it around. And it gives it some interest, you know, a little bit of design. You know, and then if you use another color later, you can just come back, you know, with it and, you know, kind of stamp randomly around it. And it looks really, really pretty. Okay. So now I'm going to pull out another sheet. I can't figure out what I'm doing here. Okay, so let's say that, you know, we've done whatever we're going to do with our acrylics, you know, and this isn't watered down or anything. This is just acrylics. And, you know, Sharon has been painting away, or you've been painting away, or, you know, whatever we've been doing with the acrylics. And we just have this, and we don't want to waste it, you know. And, you know, we want to use up, you know, everything. Okay, so. And why I picked that brush, I have no clue. I guess it was just the first one I grabbed. All right, so then you would just take, if I can find it again, I just hit your packaging. And like I said, I like a little thicker acetate. And I'm trying not to dig around too much. That was just the one thing that I forgot to grab. Yeah, I don't have it right handy. I'm sorry, y'all, I don't have it right handy, but you can use, you know, let's say that you have some of these, you know, with the little closures on them. You can use these to do this technique and wash them off and still reuse them. So, you know, any kind of plastic will work. This, again, is just happens to be a little piece of packaging, and you just take it and put it in your paints. And just kind of lay it down. And you can either mash it or you can just lift it up and see what kind of design you get. Look how pretty that is. Isn't that gorgeous, y'all? Can y'all see that? And so that's all that, you know, I mean, don't waste your paints. Use them. You know, have spare pages. You know, I told y'all before, you know, to get like a coloring book or something like that and have it just to put all your scrap pieces on different pages for collages and stuff. Do paint pages too. You know, whenever you have leftover paint that you need to do something with, you know, just, and if you use a bigger piece of plastic, then you won't end up with these lines, you know, because you're only going to put the part on that you want to, you know, to put down without putting the lines on there. I was just kind of sticking it down there to show y'all, you know, a different technique, and I really got it too thick right in there, but you know what, it doesn't matter, you know, it really doesn't matter. And I mean, you can get an absolute lot of paint. There's more paint than you think left over, you know, and so you can do maybe even, you know, on a whole nother page with just this little bit of paint. I mean, it just goes such a long way. I didn't even put this back in the paint, and look. So you can kind of do like little, you know, ghost things. So you maybe do one page with the first time down, you know. I didn't want those edges. Okay, and then the next time, on the next page, maybe just do like a little ghost image, you know, so it's just not such a heavy glob of paint. But, you know, I mean, this just is, it's just something that you can do, and you can do it with watercolor, you can do it with the gouache, you can do it with anything. And that just, you know, kind of saves from, you know, washing away all your goodies, you know. Because if you're like me, you're on a budget and you try to, you know, make things stretch as far as you can. And so look how interesting that is. I mean, and there's still more on here. I mean, I could still go, you know, with this. So, I mean, so see, I mean, it's just, there's lots and lots that, you know, and now this is starting to dry up a little bit. So I could literally wet this to kind of get it moving again. Not much, just a little bit. You know, to try to use up the rest of that. And I just, you know, kind of swirl it around. Kind of pick up, you know, more of that paint. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, let's just stick it right there. Look at there. Doesn't that look nice? I mean, it's just, it's a way not to waste anything. And so, like I said, it doesn't matter what medium you use. You can make your stamp pads. Always have your spray bottle in case something is a little bit dry. You can, you know, re-wet it. If you're using alcohol inks, you're obviously going to have a bottle, you know, of alcohol to wet those. And mark your bottles, water and alcohol. This one's not marked because I rarely use alcohol. I have it here, and when I need it, I'll either put it in a little bottle to spray, or I just kind of drip it on there. So anyway, this is just, you know, different things that you can do with your leftovers. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. I hope you'll give it all a try. It's great to make your own stamp pads. And what I think is even better is to not have to have a bunch of stamp pads and just be able to cut up some pieces for the project that we're using and put whatever paints that we may have. You know, some of you are artists. I mean, y'all use the watercolors, or you use the acrylics, and some of you use the gouache, and I'm probably not pronouncing that right. And if you just make those, you know, and then just stamp, I mean, just daub, you know, your stamps, and just, you know, and then you don't have so much of this color left, because I probably will never use this particular pink again. I'll probably mix it with a blue, or, you know, something to get a different shade. So I don't know that I want to make a whole bunch of ink pads up of this particular color. You know, so I like the idea of just being able to use this and then go wash it out, and I have it to use again for another project. And, you know, so that's what I do a lot instead of making the stamp pads. But I wanted to show you how to make the stamp pads so that you would have them on hand for colors that you really use a lot. I would not recommend making up a whole bunch of ink pads. I mean, you're just not going to use them like that, I don't think. You know, it's better to make your colors kind of as you go for your project, you know, because they're custom colors that way. And I did a video on color theory, just a little one, and didn't get into much detail. But, there's a way that you can buy like, 8 or 10 different colors and make any color in the world you want to, just mixing those colors, in different ways. So, there's lots and lots of things that we can do to be creative, to save money, to make beautiful, beautiful things. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but when you take this out, and these are actually some pretty, natural colors. But when you take this out, this is mica powder. When people talk about mica powder, eyeshadow is mica powder. You could take these out, you scrape it out, and put it in one of those little bottles and label it, dark brown mica, medium brown mica, tan mica, off-white mica. And you can put those, say, in the little bottles, and you will have them to use for mica powder, for when you want mica powder. I rarely use mica powder, but it's nice to have it. And I do have containers that I bought at Dollar Tree of eyeshadow, like of the glitzy, shiny kind, to use for some projects. And it was $1 for the little bottles of the mica powder instead of buying mica powder, online and spending a fortune on it. So, I'm all about doing everything as inexpensively as possible. I guess you could call me cheap if you want to. I don't much care what you call me. Just be nice about it, please. But I want to try to save people money the way that I save money, because I cannot afford to buy all the fancy stuff that people have. And so, most of the things that I have that are, more expensive have been gifted to me. And I appreciate that more than you could possibly know for everybody who sent me things. But, for the things that I don't have, or when I was just learning, I had to learn a lot of different techniques. And I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun to make your own. I mean, I think it's way more fun to create your own colors than to use somebody else's. So I hope y'all have fun with this. I got to go do some dishes. And I will see y'all tomorrow. And tomorrow we are going to be doing... What are we going to be doing tomorrow? My mind went blank again. We're going to be doing something tomorrow. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know why my mind is so blank this morning. I can't talk. I can't think. But anyway, we're going to have fun. It's going to be, another tutorial on how to do stuff. I love every one of you. I thank you for hanging out with me for this. Please leave me any comments below. If you've tried something, if you like it, if you like to get funky like I do. I mean, I've got stuff everywhere. That acrylic will wash off real nice. The gouache, I assume, will too. And the watercolor will. But that food coloring, that is tough to get off. I mean, that is some pigmented color. So, and that's why I like using food coloring. It is highly, highly pigmented. You get really good colors with it. And to be honest, I probably use food coloring more than any other medium. And I don't know why, because I really prefer the acrylics. I like the looks of it. I like that it gives it a little bit of dimension. But for some reason, I tend to turn to the food coloring, the gel food coloring. So anyway, y'all, I love you all. Blessings and hugs to everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and comment and hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. And if you have, go over and make sure that you're getting notified for all the videos that I upload. I love y'all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.